back, Land Cadets. Today, we're going to take off the dash bezel. It takes a little bit of time. You start out, we're going to take the steering wheel off, which could be a hang-up on this job. But at the end of the video, I'm going to show you why you keep your old dash and you try to take it off without breaking it any more than it is. But you're going to need these type of tools to do it. We'll go through. Be very patient. This is something, it doesn't take a lot of tools. It just takes a little bit of patience. There's going to be a little bit of formula when it comes to the gauges. A few more steps on a diesel compared to a gas. But the first thing we're going to do is remove the steering wheel. First thing you do is pop the center cap. You're going to need a 15/16. Now, usually when I do this, I use air, but today, with the noise and stuff, we'll just use a regular socket and a breaker bar. Now, you're not going to take the nut all the way off. In fact, I went a little bit too far with it. You can't put a puller on these 782s, the 1650s, any of them. So what you do is you get a punch, a pretty good sized one, and you just put your knee in underneath it. Don't miss, because once I did, and boy, that hurt. And all you do, and she popped the first time. You remove the nut. Now they don't always move the first time. And there she is. I put the nut right back on. Make sure you put a pretty good size full nut on there. So the simple reason is so you don't disturb the threads. Then we're going to go to remove the knobs. Then we're going to go to the hard part, and then it'll get easier from here. Now we're going to remove the first gauge. So you get right in there. Usually on the hour meter, now they're not all the same size on the nuts. They're 11/30 seconds. And that one busted. But that's all right. You're going to see why it's all right that that busted. There's two of them in there. Now, something I noticed yesterday when I was preparing for this removal, that this hour meter is no good. You're going to see that in a few minutes here, if we can get that out. As you can see, sometimes this stuff's tough. The batteries on the diesels are right here, and they get a little bit of acid on them, so it screws up the threads. That's a big problem right there. But as I've mentioned in the past, this machine has 1,026 hours on it. And you can see this gauge is already broke, so it wasn't working anyways. But to keep the project pretty simple, I found another hour meter that has 1,013. So when I reassemble it, I will put one in. It's 1,013. It's going to be 13 hours off on it. So, but that's not a big deal. I had a lot of them. They were different. I had 500s, 300s. I had 2,400 ones. That's what's one thing nice about having a salvage yard of Cub Cadets. You have a lot of parts. We're going to skip to the amp gauge. It doesn't have to be that way, but I just going to go that direction. You're going to need a 3/8. Now keep your nuts. One thing I didn't do, and I'm going to do it, right now is I'm going to plug this other amp gauge right in. So on one side, so I know, keep the wiring all in order. So when I go put that in, that's one step I got a little bit ahead of myself. Must be I grabbed the wrong ratchet. I surely did. Keep them right there. This amp gauge is a leftover from the International, because it does have the International part number I noticed on it. When I put it together, I might put one with the International emblem on it. I kind of prefer them, to be honest with you. I'm going to push it through, put this back together. And then I'm going to put the wires back on. So keep everything organized. If you get them backwards, just turn them around when you put it back together. If they're discharging, then you know that you just got to swipe them or turn them around. Now, somebody put an aftermarket temperature gauge in this, and it's metric. So this one here, you're going to need 7 millimeter. I noticed that. I can't even get that nut back on there. There it goes. No, I guess it did not. But there we go. So I have my tools already ready. I'm going to unhook that. I think it has a keeper on it. There. And out she comes. Now that is an aftermarket. That's not an original that's in it, but that's okay. It worked, so we'll probably put it right back in. I'll find the nut later. Plug that back in. Now our wiring's all back in order. Now the next thing we're going to do, but it was not hooked up, is the oil indicator light. Usually you can reach right in there, and this one you can. Now these are on the gas ones too. And you pull them right out. Next, the last thing we have to pull besides the electric clutch is come around, and we have the heat indicator for the glow plugs. Now a gas one does not have that one, but we do have to take this out. Now this could come out very hard. This is a Kubota part, not an International part or a Cub Cadet part. And I did work on this one because I had to use, to get it loose, I had to use a chisel to get it loose. Now don't be afraid, you can see my chisel marks on there that I chiseled mine a little bit to get it off. Now this one here, you don't have to pull your wires off. And that goes for the same for the electric clutch. Put the nut back on there. I don't think this machine's ever been pulled apart too much. let that just dangle right there. Next thing we'll pull the grommet off for the steering wheel. Then we're going to start pulling the regular screws. Now it's a good idea because I'll show you why when I pull the screw out, you want to lube them up really well. And I did, I soaked them all night. And if you're taking off a dash and you're using it again, see they make right there some washers. And I save all my hardware. But this piece is actually broke, see, but that plastic right there originally was around the dash right there. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference. If you break that and you're going to reuse it, just re-glue it and then drill it later. Paint it black, you'll never notice it. We're getting close now. We're down to, after this one, we're down to 3 more screws. Now, on a diesel, it's a little bit more difficult to take this top bezel off. Obviously, on a gas one, they don't have this bezel. They just use these regular screws, and you screw, we'd have 2 screws to take out, and we'd be instantly done. Now, on the diesels, they put a nut behind here. It's 3/8 on the other side. Now we're taking the throttle lever off. It's a good idea to hold the back of it so it doesn't just fall down in. Right there, you can see she's starting to come loose. Then we'll take a 3/8, and I have it right here. We'll put it on. Now it's threaded through the back of the dash panel here too, on the steel portion. And you're gonna screw them both at the same time. Unscrew them both at the same time, I probably should say. Okay. I'll put new screws in when I put that back together. Now, I'm probably gonna use this piece on the one I'm going to replace it with because it still has a little bit of the chrome on there. Because the one I have has been painted all black. Now the diesels, I believe, were all shipped with dual outlets on it. If you have just a single lever, it'll come right out easy, but you do have to work it around. You might have to bend this lever just a little bit than the ones with dual outlets on them. I'll replace it and I'll put new screws in it, but them are the original ones because the original ones did have a point on them. Right there is the bezel I will reuse. Now this is, like I was telling you, this is the tough thing. You might have to work it a little bit. As you can see, it's quite a job when they have dual outlets on them. I'm just going to bend that over just here. You'll have to bend that back. See, you do have to bend them to come out. They're a little bit of a struggle. You have to take your time. Obviously, that lever will bend right back. See, right there, she's already bent back and ready to go. But you do have to bend them if you have dual outlets on them. It doesn't matter if it's gas or diesel. But we're going to come over to a temporary bench I have set up. And I'm going to show you, this is the bezel that I'm going to replace it with. Like I was telling you, this one's already been painted black. Now, this is why I was telling you, these are my donor ones. Right here, I have all kinds of parts. Now, I'm going to show you, you can notice that this piece on this one is cut out. Well, I'm going to show you where it's at. It's right there. That's why you always keep them, because obviously we all collect Cub Cadets. We all have a lot of them. But I glued that in and repaired it and painted it. So this actually was a cracked bezel, but I repair them. In the winter days when it's kind of cool out, that's something I do for fun, is see if I can make them, blend them in. I put sections in the center and everything. They really turn out very well. I love working on these Cub Cadets. Thank you very much.